My name is Courtney Wood. I'm the Economic Development Director for the Downtown Stockton Alliance, which is a 501c6 nonprofit property-based business improvement district serving downtown Stockton. This webinar series is intended to connect our business owners, property owners, and visitors with the organizations, people, and resources who can help them address issues which are of top concern to them. Today, we have special guest, David Lipari. He's the marketing manager for the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission. So today we're going to learn all about rail in San Joaquin and how it relates to downtown. I would like to begin by having David go ahead and introduce himself and tell us a little bit about what he does in his role. Then I will open up and ask him a few questions I've outlined for him. And after that, we'll have the viewers go ahead and type in your questions. With that, I would like to say thank you so much, David, for being our guest today. And I would love it if you could please share a little bit about yourself and your role at the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission.
No, thank you so much, Courtney, for having me. Super excited to talk about rail. I mean, it's like one of my favorite subjects of all time, obviously. I am the marketing manager, as you mentioned, at the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, as well as the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. So it's two agencies, two different boards, but one unified staff. And we have management and oversight of both ACE, the Altamont Corridor Express service, as well as Amtrak San Joaquin's. And we are a marketing department that serves both services. So trying to get people out of their cars, onto trains, improving the environment and improving their quality of life. So that's what I do every day here from my office, which is in downtown Stockton. So it's pretty great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So we were talking about that a little bit before going live about how you represent two agencies. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Joint Powers Authority and why it's so important for our region and especially for downtown?
Absolutely. So, two agencies here, right? So the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission, they have the management and oversight of the Altamont Corridor Express service. So this is like local control and oversight of our commute option from the San Joaquin Valley into the Bay Area. And then we also have the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority, which is local control over Amtrak San Joaquin's and its service, which serves from Bakersfield to Sacramento, as well as to Oakland. And really the local transportation agency model, I think, is really beneficial for the community because we are here for you. So we listen to the community, we plan these services with the community in mind. And that means that rather than someone in Sacramento or somewhere else making the decision, it's really local sort of stakeholders who are planning these services and launching these services to benefit those that live here in the San Joaquin Valley, in the Bay Area, and beyond. So really kind of the best of all worlds here at the Rail Commission and the JPA.
Awesome. And can you share with us a little bit about the services and programs that your organization provides?
Yeah, absolutely. So ACE, or the Altamont Corridor Express, is a 5-day-a-week service. So Monday through Friday. In normal times, we would be operating 4 Monday through Friday round trips, between Stockton and San Jose. And that service really is focused on commute travel. So business travel between the San Joaquin Valley and the Tri-Valley, sort of the Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore area, as well as into the Silicon Valley, as well as commute traffic between the Tri-Valley and the Silicon Valley. And it's a very, in normal times, again, it's a very busy service, carrying over 1.5 million passengers a year, packed trains, really like serving passengers trying to get to work, but don't want to be in the congested freeways on 205, 580 and beyond. Really sit back, relax, and let ACE do the driving for you in the morning and in the evening. And on the other side of the service, the Amtrak San Joaquin service is sort of like almost the opposite of ACE. It's nearly 100% leisure travel, so very little business travel. That's a 7-day-a-week service serving train stations from Bakersfield all the way up to Oakland and Sacramento, with 7 daily round trips a day. But then beyond that, the San Joaquin's sort of unique in the Amtrak system boasts a very extensive throughway bus network that with buses that connect to the trains that can take you to places like LA or San Diego, Las Vegas, Reno, all sorts of different destinations throughout California and Nevada. So really kind of extending the train experience even beyond to other communities, a lot of rural communities. So really, those are the two services that we represent, the two services that we're planning for, the two services that me and my team market, and two very exciting, very different, but very well-utilized rail services in California.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, it's cool how we can just pretty much go anywhere right from downtown.
That's right, exactly. It's pretty awesome.
So is there something interesting that you think people should know about the organization that you work for?
I would say that I think I've already touched on it a little bit, but I think something that we really pride ourselves in is being very close to the community and close to our passengers. And so I think really the spirit behind the Rail Commission and the JPA is not to sort of make decisions in a vacuum, but really to listen and to hear what the community needs in terms of transportation, what the passengers need in terms of improvements. And really, it's our job as staff to listen to the board who tells us what to do, and then go out and really accomplish those improvements for the community. So right now, we're sitting on about $1 billion in expansion for both services to Sacramento. ACE is extending further south to eventually Merced. And really, I mean, this is all a part of, how can we improve these services for the communities that we serve? And just our Valley Rail program alone, this large expansion program, is one way in which we've listened, and now we've gone and got funding, and now we're in the midst of implementing a huge service expansion project that's going to benefit all the communities, including Stockton, who's going to have now access not only to these trains that are going other places, but also people coming to downtown Stockton via the train from these new communities.
Oh, wow. Okay, awesome. And how can people give you their feedback?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'd love to hear from everyone, like I said. So a lot of the ways in which we hear from passengers, they go to one of our websites, whether that's acerail.com or amtreksanjoaquins.com, and you can find all of our contact information or contact forms. You can also attend any of our board meetings. They're all public, and there's opportunities for public comment, which we receive a lot of public comments during the course of our meetings. Right now, it's kind of like a pretty neat time because they're virtual. So you don't even have to travel to our board meeting. You can just hop on a Zoom, very much like this. And you can find information about those board meetings on SJJPA.com if you're interested in attending a board meeting about Amtrak San Joaquins, or at acerail.com if you're interested in hearing a board meeting about primarily about the ACE service. Awesome.
Thank you. So now I have a question. What's the most common question that you receive about
That's a good one.
The Rail Commission or Joint Powers Authority?
Yeah, I think the biggest question we get is, how long have you been around? So I think that there's still a lot of work to do within the community to help rail transportation become kind of second nature to us Californians who love to drive our cars everywhere, right? And so a lot of the questions that I get are, well, where do you go, or how can I use the service? And certainly from my perspective, I've taken a lot of trips on both services. I have a lot of suggestions, and we're happy to answer that question every time I'm asked. But these services have been around for quite a long time. ACE over 20 years. The San Joaquins really operating since the 70s under Amtrak oversight. So really, they've been a part of our communities, but certain parts of our corridors have less familiarity. And I think that's part of my job, right, is to let people know, hey, these exist, you should utilize them, and here's the best way to do it.
Okay, and when people do ask you that, how do you answer them? So
that's a great question. Yeah, so on ACE, I mean, I always that's more of a very particular group of people, right? They're using it for business travel, using it for commute travel. So I think that's more of a needs-based thing. Well, do you work in the Bay Area? This is a great way to do it. And then a lot of that conversation is about, well, what's the experience like? Why is it better than taking my car? And I think a lot of what that conversation ends up looking like is, man, I mean, our trains are immaculate. They're super clean, quiet. We have free Wi-Fi on board. You can sit back and relax, listen to an audiobook, work while you're on the train, or even, as a lot of our passengers do in the morning, take a nap, right? Like as you're on your way.
That would be me.
Right, exactly, on your way into the office. So really that's about experience. On the San Joaquins, when you're talking about taking a leisure trip, there's so many great options to utilizing the services. We talk a lot about like going down to Hanford, California, the small town south of Fresno, and going to Superior Dairy and getting a giant ice cream. It's a pretty incredible place to go. Or taking the service to places like Emeryville and walking across the tracks to the Bay Street Mall, or to Oakland and visiting downtown Oakland, or our throughway bus into San Francisco, where you can get sort of like door-to-door service right into downtown. So there's a lot of amazing places that you can visit by just hopping on a train right here in Stockton.
Amazing, amazing. And can you share a little bit about your fares and how they compare to like maybe taking a bus or driving?
Sure, yeah. So both services are actually quite competitively priced. So I think when you think of ACE going into the Bay Area, and you start to calculate your gas and like the wear on your car, as well as what you may experience in terms of parking fees as you get there. I mean, ACE ends up being a very sort of cost-effective option for the commuter. So for instance, from Stockton, if you were going to San Jose, a one-way trip is $15.50. So that's sort of your entry fare. If you're going to do a round trip in a day, that's $27.50. So it's really cost-effective when you think of, well, how much gas am I going to spend going from here all the way to San Jose, as well as that parking fee. Super competitive, as well as like quality of life. Like I'm not sitting there like white knuckling it in traffic. I'm sitting back and relaxing. So super, sort of incredible opportunity. When you think of the San Joaquins, again, a very cost-effective way to travel around California, and we have a lot of discount programs that help people lower the cost of their trip on the San Joaquin. So if you book 7 days in advance, you can get a 20% discount. We have a discount for small groups. So if you're going with yourself, as well as a couple other people, you can get up to 50% off your ticket. So really, I think, sort of exploring around our websites, you can find how simple and cost effective it is to go pretty much anywhere in California, no matter which train you want to take.
Amazing. Yeah, I think those prices are so reasonable.
Yeah, totally. Especially when you start thinking of just like parking in a parking garage. It's like, oh, well, that's like $5 an hour, $10 an hour. I mean, you're already going to be saving money by just taking the train.
Awesome. Okay, so now I'd like to ask a little bit about ridership. Yeah. Prior to the pandemic, what kind of demographics, like who were the people riding these trains? I know you said there was a difference between one of the trains being more commuters and the other one being more leisure, but do you also have any other information about like age groups or anything?
Totally, yeah. So on the ACE side, pre-pandemic, we're carrying about 1.5 million passengers a year, and that number was growing over and over every year. I think we've all been, in the 205, 580 traffic headed to the Bay Area during the week. And so really, the traffic itself is our biggest marketing asset, right? People are like, I don't want to do that anymore. And ACE is such an efficient way to do that. And so a lot of those, like nearly 100% of our ACE passengers are working in the Bay Area. So that they're business travelers for anywhere from, like someone who's in an entry-level position, all the way up to executives and agencies and businesses in the Bay Area utilizing the service because they live out here in the San Joaquin Valley, or they live in the Tri-Valley and they're getting into the Silicon Valley. So really on the ACE side, a more, sort of a higher income passenger, but still someone who needs an alternative transportation option when it comes to ACE. On the San Joaquins, completely different story. So we're carrying almost 100% leisure travel on the San Joaquins. But what I like to caveat that in this idea that I think when sort of transportation agencies or airlines say leisure travel, I think a lot of us think of like a guy with a surfboard and he's going on the train to the beach. That's not really the typical leisure traveler on the San Joaquins. The typical leisure traveler is someone who's going to connect with their family who lives somewhere else in California. So it's more of like a mom like reconnecting with her kids, or kids reconnecting with their mom. I mean, this is the kind of connections that we make with the San Joaquins, and the San Joaquins passenger tends to be a lower income passenger who really is needs-based fast food. They need the service to make this trip, and they're kind of transit dependent, like many of them, or they just don't really have like the vehicle that can make that long journey, right, from LA all the way, to Stockton, or from Stockton all the way down to San Diego. So the San Joaquin's become a really great option for them to utilize the service. As well as on the San Joaquin's, we have a real high number, like almost a quarter of our passengers are students. So they're connecting to their campuses in various parts of our corridor, all the way up to Humboldt State, in Arcata, to UC Merced in the really core of our corridor, Sac State, UC Berkeley. So we connect to a lot of these campuses, or can get you very close. So a lot of our passengers tend to be students as well.
How interesting. That's very interesting to know about students.
Yeah, I mean, I think as campuses continue to sort of like, freshmen aren't allowed to have a car on campus type situation, right? Sort of drives some other way to get to campus. And since our service, the San Joaquin is so broad in terms of our service area, it really makes for a lot of opportunity. Like, you probably have a bus stop near your community, and we probably have either a bus stop or a train station near your school. And so it really becomes a really convenient option. And we have a lot of great student targeted discount programs, like our 15% off student discount, as well as if you buy 6 rides to your destination at once, you get a 30% discount for students. So really making it kind of cost effective for them to do that trip to and from school throughout the year.
Wow, that's an amazing deal.
Yeah, totally.
And that's for students anywhere in California?
Anywhere in California. So yeah, depending on, we have a lot of throughway buses that go into the LA basin, so a lot of opportunity for connection there, as well as other parts of California. And on the A side, we also have a student program as well with San Jose State and University of Santa Clara, as well as Los Positas Community College, where they also can receive a pretty deep discount, and they can check with their transportation offices at their campuses for that discount.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for sharing with us information about ridership prior to the pandemic. And now I do want to kind of shift gears and talk just a little bit about how ridership was affected during the pandemic, and also if there were any operational changes that came about for the 2 rail services.
Yeah, absolutely. So certainly, just like everyone else, every other transit agency in the nation, as the impact of the pandemic began to take hold, we saw a pretty immediate and drastic change in ridership and revenue as it was associated with the pandemic. So we really, at both services in around April or so of 2020, were down like 95% of normal. So pretty significant sort of decline in ridership over about a 2-week period. And from that low, we saw on both services a slight rebound in ridership as sort of the pandemic began to, sort of the environment became known, right? And then we began to offer more of an essential connections for people in needing to make sort of essential trips. So on ACE, in response to this sort of precipitous decline in ridership, we cut our trains from 4 trains a day down to 2 trains a day, and really focused on, well, how can we serve the essential worker or the essential traveler? So those that are perhaps working in the medical field, like in the Bay Area, and still need to get to their work, or perhaps they're in sort of an industry that didn't shut down, like construction or something else, like in the Bay Area, and they still need to get to their office or their workplace. And so we continue to operate like that throughout much of the pandemic. Only till recently, in May of 2021, did we reintroduce one of those round trips that are suspended on ACE, and we plan to reintroduce the 4th, sort of getting back to quote unquote normal service sometime later this year, most likely in September. And really, I mean, what that meant for us as we sort of scaled back service was also an increased commitment to cleaning protocols on board, as well as at our stations. And we were all, I think, as transit agencies, sharing information with one another through working groups that were hosted by MTC and other partners that are really educating all of us on, well, now what do we do in terms of response? So we really upped our cleaning protocols on board. We started spraying, medical grade disinfectant, something different that we didn't do before the pandemic on ACE, wiping down surfaces at our stations like the one here in downtown Stockton at Cabral for ACE, making sure that all of our passengers as well as our employees were safe during this operating environment. During this time, we also mandated social distancing at our stations as well as on board, so everyone was pretty well. I mean, there wasn't a huge number of passengers, so it was pretty easy to spread out on board. And we continue to monitor that even today to make sure that there's enough capacity for people to kind of be a little bit more spread out on board the train. And then, of course, we from the very beginning had a mask mandate on ACE, and that mask mandate continued and still continues to today. Even though CDC and others have sort of released their mask mandate, we anticipate that transit will most likely be one of the last areas of the economy that sort of remove that mask mandate. So at least for the time being, we're still communicating that to passengers. So if you're want to ride ACE, you see this and you're like, oh, I want to give this a shot, the masks are still required on board. On the San Joaquins, we did some similar work. So we went down from 7 daily round trips down to 4 daily round trips. The Lodi, Elk Grove, and Stockton. And we instituted similar cleaning protocols on board. We paired back our throughway bus network to kind of really essential areas, essential service to particular destinations that are high volume destinations for us, as well as destinations where if people needed to extend their trip even further, had good transit connections. So, really beefing up and making sure we sustained our service to LA Union Station, which from there, people can take Metro or other transit services to get further, sort of afield in the LA basin as well as others. And really on the San Joaquins, from a ridership perspective, interestingly enough, typically the San Joaquins are the 6th busiest Amtrak service in the nation.
Wow.
For the first few months of the pandemic, we were actually the busiest, #1 of the nation, and throughout the pandemic operating period have really been about the 3rd busiest in the entire nation from an Amtrak service perspective. And I think that what that really sort of highlights for the San Joaquins is that the San Joaquins really are this kind of essential service for Californians. This is how many people get around the state. And even though there was a pandemic, even though things were obviously, we were all trying to deal with what does it look like to live in this environment, the San Joaquins really was the backbone of transportation for many people and was well utilized throughout the pandemic. And even still today, we're back to about 45% of normal, down from 5%, and we're continuing to climb out of that sort of month over month, improving in ridership. Because I think the San Joaquin's really just a resilient ridership because people really need the service.
That's amazing.
Yeah, pretty incredible. Yeah, that's right. Watch out. Woo!
Amazing. Okay, thank you. So now let's shift away from the pandemic, and I would like to talk about the future. Yeah. So what can we look forward to from San Joaquin's and ACE in the next year? Is there anything like special projects coming up or new services you guys are planning to offer?
Yeah, so I think what you'll see from us in the next year is we will be getting back to pre-pandemic service levels. I think that's really the key for us in the very near term. ACE returning the 4th round trip. San Joaquin's will be returning the 5th round trip between Bakersfield and Oakland in June. And then we look to probably October timeframe for one of the Sacramento trains to come back. And then later in 2022 for the 2nd Sacramento train to come back and get back to our 7 daily sort of round trips. So that's really near term things that we're really planning, pushing towards, and making sure that we get service restored to where it was before. Now, a couple of other smaller things, like on the ACE service right now, we're right in the middle of a midlife overhaul of all of the equipment. So the equipment are kind of being refreshed, and like,
Nice.
even though they're already clean, they're going to feel even more clean than they were before. We're adding some technology to the trains, like we're improving the Wi-Fi, as well as adding sort of LCD screens and things that sort of help passengers know where they are in the corridor, kind of upping our tech game, which is quite exciting. As well as you'll see the outside of the trains are getting repainted with a new scheme, so the trains may look different running in and out of Stockton. On the San Joaquin side, we're working towards introducing a new equipment type. So the San Joaquin's over the next several years will be replacing its fleet with new equipment that's manufactured by Siemens, actually right up the tracks in Sacramento. So local jobs are being created to manufacture this equipment, and that equipment will be rolling out sometime later this year. We'll certainly announce that. It'll be great for everyone to get a chance to ride these brand new rail cars. They still have the new rail car smell, so it's a pretty awesome.
Oh, cool.
And then so that's really sort of from the service side, kind of what we're focused on. On the capital side, this year we'll begin sort of the breaking ground of our expansion program which is called Valley Rail, where we'll be starting to build the projects necessary to run expanded service. So expanded service for ACE. ACE will be expanding service south to Merced, as well as north to Sacramento in the Natomas area, eventually having a connection to the Sacramento airport. So the capital projects for that expansion, the planning and the environmental work is done. Now the design and construction work will begin. So that's super exciting. Yes. As well as the San Joaquin's will increase service to Sacramento as well as a part of this program. So kind of the best of both of these worlds sort of coming together in a unified corridor where doesn't really matter whether you take ACE, up to Sacramento and the San Joaquin's back, it's all going to work seamlessly for the passenger. So really kind of leveraging the strengths of both services, as well as we'll continue our work on our large infrastructure project in just south of downtown Stockton called the Stockton Diamond Grade Separation. So the final EIR for that project was approved or will be approved this month in June, and then it will be moving into the design phase in the near term. So we'll be focused on getting that project over the finish line, getting it into construction in a year or two as the design work gets finalized, and that'll be another important part of our program, making sure that we're continuing on those capital investments and making sure that the future of these rail services is really secure for the community.
Awesome. So the time frame on the Valley Rail project, can you share with me? You're saying, I thought you said a year, but that might have been for the other project, the Diamond Grade.
Yeah, so for the Valley Rail program, we're expecting new service to start in 2023. So this year begins sort of all the construction projects, right? Like getting all the new stations built for ACE, as well as the San Joaquin's north of Stockton. So actually the trains will be using a new rail corridor north of Stockton in the future. And so those stations need to be built to receive passengers and for passengers to disembark the train. So all of those capital programs will be starting this year, and we expect service to begin in 2023. Which will be really exciting. I mean, these are new communities that will be receiving service, as well as, like I said, new places for Stocktonians to go, as well as new places for people to come to Stockton, like from their home base, and whether they want to work here in downtown Stockton or if they want to come and eat at our restaurants, these are just going to be great connections for the community.
Enjoy the waterfront.
That's right. Exactly. I'll let you do all of the marketing for downtown Stockton.
No, we appreciate the support.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, and for the Diamond Grade separation, can you share a little bit more about what exactly that's going to mean for riders and for freight trains also?
Totally. So, if you've ever driven around downtown Stockton, or even just sort of even beyond kind of downtown Stockton, you undoubtedly ran into a train that is just sitting on the tracks. You're probably wondering, what's happening? Like, why is that train not moving? I need to get to the other side. Well, a lot of that in the downtown Stockton area is indicative of the fact that right south of downtown, there is what's called the Stockton Diamond, which is essentially where the east-west tracks of the Burlington Northern Santa Fe line and the north-south tracks of the Union Pacific cross, like at an intersection, and it's at grade, so I mean they're at the same level. So it's just like an intersection, like for automobiles. And so when one train is going through the diamond, the other directions need to stop, right, and wait for that train to clear. And that's not necessarily a big problem when you think of like our small passenger trains, right? They're like 6 cars, 5 cars. They go through the diamond fairly quickly, but you can have a freight train up to a mile long. So you can imagine how long that would take to clear this intersection. And now this intersection, through other improvements throughout the state, now is sort of notorious as the #1 rail bottleneck in California. So, I mean, Stockton's on the map, at least for that. And we're working on a project with Union Pacific and BNSF to grade separate this diamond. So essentially what we're going to be doing is building a rail overpass so that the 2 tracks are no longer at the same level. And what this will allow is more free movement of trains through the diamond. So so trains can go north, south, and east, west simultaneously. What this will do in the near term will really improve operations and throughput of the diamond. So when you talk about goods movement, goods are going to be able to move much better through the diamond. The port will receive some sort of benefit from trains not having to wait. And so it'll be really an important goods movement project. On the passenger rail side, it really becomes operationally a great project just so that our trains move better in the Stockton area and don't end up sort of incurring delays because the diamond is busy. And that happens from time to time. You know, maybe a San Joaquin's train is waiting at the San Joaquin Street station, like more in the south side of Stockton, and it's sitting there at the station, though it's on time, waiting for the diamond to clear to get back on its journey. And so this project will help free up that capacity. Eventually, the diamond will certainly aid any and all expansion programs for ACE and the San Joaquins, as we want to run more trains in the corridor, and that diamond eventually was certainly going to become an issue with running additional service in the valley. So that'll be something that will be a benefit in the future as well.
Okay. And so do you think then that maybe some of the the times that you guys have set for the journeys will shorten because of this?
I don't know if it'll necessarily shorten because of this. We definitely have other programs that are aimed at shortening our journeys, but it will definitely shorten time, like unintended time that was in the schedule, right? I'm waiting.
It will keep them on schedule.
To keep them on time, exactly. So I think that's the real benefit for us, as well as the benefit that in the future, this won't be the sticky point for adding additional trains.
Awesome. It's going to be an awesome project. I can't.
It's going to be a great project. It's right near downtown. It's going to really help all of the operations in the area and really, I think, benefit everybody.
Amazing. Okay, so you maybe have touched on some of this in our conversation already, but how do you see Downtown Stockton's role, like as a transportation hub, evolving in the next 5 years or so?
Absolutely. I think with the introduction of the Valley Rail program, there's going to be more trains coming in and out of downtown Stockton than ever before. And really, because of actually the location of the Stockton Diamond and the fact that Stockton is kind of this intersection between north and south and east and west, Stockton is well positioned, and downtown Stockton in particular, well positioned to really have a strong rail transportation sort of nexus on into the future, because this is where the tracks are. This is where the connections are naturally, and the infrastructure is here. So certainly downtown Stockton has a key role for us well into the future. And I think that this is not, and that's even indicative of the fact that this is where my office is, right? Like I'm at a station here in downtown Stockton, which will be receiving more trains in the future. And we're actually expanding our offices here to the old Western Pacific Depot on the other side of the tracks, because our services are expanding, our platform is expanding, and now we need even more support to keep these services going. So really from a strategic perspective, Downtown Stockton is perfectly positioned for not only the current services that we offer, but also for future service. So as future services increase, right, and commute traffic in the valley, as well as leisure travel in the valley increases, and Downtown Stockton is in this great position to not only be a jumping on point to the services, but really a jumping off point as well. So for maybe folks who live in communities south, like Ripon, Modesto, Ceres, Merced, who work in Stockton, now you're going to have commute trains coming in and out of Stockton every day. So you can work here in downtown Stockton, but live in a different part of the valley, or vice versa, right? You can live here in downtown Stockton and take these services. Maybe you work in Natomas, maybe you work in the Tri-Valley, maybe you work in San Jose, and now you're right in the mix of all of this great transportation that's only getting better into the future. So really exciting, I think, for the downtown Stockton community. And I think we have our own eye on our own state here in downtown Stockton and want to see these connections improve and people really utilize and take advantage of these services that are here.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, totally.
And touching on this kind of evolution of downtown being a transportation hub, do you see any kind of trends in the rail industry that might be coming to downtown or to either of your rail services?
Yeah, I think that really what the rail industry is sort of focused on is improving the passenger experience, as well as improving the way in which passengers interact with transit. So how can we make the process for purchasing a ticket easier? How can we make the journey on board more seamless? And I think the challenge for the Rail Commission and the JPA, as we leverage both of these services together, ACE and the San Joaquins, is really making that kind of a seamless system for the passenger. So maybe I live here in downtown Stockton. Like, I don't want to think about, like, am I taking an ACE train? Am I taking a San Joaquin's train? Like that's too much brain work, right? It's our job to make that like a seamless process in the future, especially as we begin to share a corridor up to Natomas and beyond. We really want it to feel like this is just a seamless process, and it's so easy for people to utilize the strip. It's real easy to book a ticket, and it really improves people's quality of life. And I think that's something that we're really focused on here as an agency. So I think that's what you can expect from us in terms of, well, how does downtown Stockton benefit, or what are the changes that are coming? I think what the changes that are coming are really in technology, like how people interact with us as a service, as well as in the seamless nature of it. And maybe even that goes beyond the rail, but also partnerships with people like, San Joaquin RTD or Uber or Lyft, right? All of my travel to and from my home to my destination becomes a more seamless process, so that, again, I can think of it less, and I can focus more on what I need to focus on in my life, and not how to put all these journeys together.
Perfect. And right now, is it pretty simple for people to buy tickets online? How does that process work? They don't have to go in person, right? Okay.
No, they don't. So ACE and the San Joaquins, they both have individual apps. So the ACE app is available in all of the app stores. You can easily purchase tickets on that system. If you prefer to buy a ticket, like a physical ticket, you can do so. You can come down here to the Cabral station and purchase a ticket from one of our awesome customer service agents. We also have customer service agents in other stations as well who will sell you a ticket. And you can buy a ticket on Amtrak San Joaquins, either via the Amtrak app or via AmtrakSanJoaquins.com. So really a lot of easy ways to sort of enter the system and to purchase those tickets now. And that's only going to get easier into the future.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks for sharing a little bit about the direction of the future. It's very exciting to hear. I love that. So I just have a couple questions left. Is there anything else that you think people should know about San Joaquin's or the regional rail ACE train, or just anything else you want to share with people who are watching or listening in? Yeah,
so I think that's something that I always want to share when it's time, that I get this question, is I think that there's a lot of barriers for people who have never taken a train, right? Like, they see the trains in their community, but they're like, that seems like a foreign concept, right? Like, I've never done that. Like, I don't know how to buy a ticket. Like, I don't know how to board a train. Like my hope would be that people in our community like would recognize that they really pay for these services, right? Like we are funded through taxpayer dollars, whether it's via the state or via local sources. So this is not our train. This is not just the current passengers train, but this is the community's train. So you are a part of this system. You are a part of this network, and you should use the asset that you're paying for. And I think that once you do it the first time, right, once you get over that initial hump, I think people's eyes are open. They realize, oh, it's not so hard to take a train, and I'd much rather take this train into the Bay Area than drive. I know for me, that's how it is. Like I don't ever want to drive to the East Bay anymore. Like I just want to take the San Joaquins. It's so much easier. Like I don't want to drive down to San Jose anymore. Like I just want to take ACE. It's so much easier. And so I think that we're here, and our customer service, agents are here to help people get over that hump. So if you're like, maybe you have some anxiety about your trip, or you're thinking about it and you're on sort of the cusp, I would encourage you, reach out to us. Like we're here, we're pretty nice people and willing to help you get sort of the information that you need to get on the train. And however we can make that easier for you, we're happy to do it.
Just try it out. Try it one time.
Try it out.
You may use it all the time.
That's right.
Awesome. Okay, my last question is, how can people get in touch with you if they do have further questions, or they're like, man, David, that sounds exciting. I am scared to try the train though. I want you to help me. Where can they go? Or
I think the real learn more? Yeah, I think the best place to go is to our website. So if you're interested in taking an ACE trip from Stockton to the Tri-Valley, right, Dublin, Pleasanton, Livermore area, we actually have a BART connection there. So if you're interested in taking it to BART and going beyond, or down to San Jose, the best place to get information about that is acerail.com. And there's all in the contact us area, there's a lot of ways to get into contact with staff and to help you on your journey. Or if you're more of like an old school person and you want to just talk to someone in person, you can come down to the station, and there'll be certainly someone here Monday through Friday, very early in the morning, because the trains leave pretty early. So if you're an early riser, 4:30 a.m., you can come right down and talk to someone. Or throughout the day, there's people here that would love to answer your questions, help you on your rail journey. On the San Joaquin side, you're interested in taking a trip to LA, perhaps. You're interested in going to the East Bay, or to somewhere in the Central Valley like Merced or Fresno, or to go eat ice cream in Hanford, you can go to amtraksanjoaquins.com. Again, easy contact us button. You can find ways to get a hold of staff, get a hold of the marketing department. You can also follow both services on all of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We release a lot of information there, a lot of great ways to, like, trip ideas and ways to use the service that might inspire you. But you can also interact with us there. We have staff monitoring those channels, ready to help people put the pieces together for their trip. So those are probably the best ways to get a hold of us, best ways to interact with us. And there's always people ready to sort of help you with your trip.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, David, for answering all of my questions and for letting people know how they can learn more and how they can plan their trip seamlessly. So now I'm going to go ahead and see if we have any viewer questions, and I'll ask them to you.
Great.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Okay, so we have a question. This is from one of our staff members, Ben. He's asking, what kind of discounts are offered for students and seniors riding the train? Are there discounts for larger groups taking the train?
Yes, and for both services as well. So on the ACE side, seniors and students actually receive a 50% discount off of, or up to 50%. I think we round to the nearest quarter, so we can't say 50%, but like it's really close to 50%. And the best way to take advantage of that on the ACE side is either through the app or through coming into the station and buying your ticket. Pretty seamless process for that, as well as we do have group rates. So if you have a group that wants to take a trip to the Tri-Valley or the Silicon Valley, you can go to our website. There's a group trips page. There's a form that you fill out, and we can easily book you a trip on ACE. We can section off a car so your group can sit together, and there is a discount available for those trips as well. On the San Joaquins, for students as well as seniors, we do have a 15% discount. That's a pretty easy process. You can go to amtraksanjoaquins.com and figure out the proper way to do that. Or as I mentioned before, for students on the San Joaquins, we have what's called the 6 ticks, which is a 6 ride pass. So say I'm a student, I live in Stockton, but I go to school at UC Berkeley. I can buy my 6 trips now at a 30% discount, and I can use that anytime I want over the course of the year to get to and from campus, whether that's just for going to campus initially and then coming home for the holidays, or however you want to use it. It's available. You can kind of have that in your pocket and don't have to worry about booking a ticket closer in, and as well as for groups. 30% discount on the San Joaquins for groups. There's a pretty great simple process that you do on AmtrakSanJoaquins.com to start that process, and same rules apply. We will section off a car for you. You have your whole group together. We take groups as big as 100 people together, and that goes for senior groups wanting to take a shopping trip like in San Francisco, or school groups trying to go to the capital or something like that. A lot of cool opportunities to take group trips on both services.
Okay, and I would like to ask about the 6 ticks that you were mentioning. Is there any kind of time frame within which they have to use each of those?
Yeah, so they'll have a whole year to utilize their 6 trips. So from the first time they use it, or you use it, right? So I use it like this month, then the clock starts ticking for those 6 trips. And I think typically for a student, you probably might even need more than one six pass depending on your travel patterns. But coming back for Thanksgiving, coming back for Christmas, or for spring break, right? A lot of opportunities to utilize those trips throughout the year.
Okay, that's a nice chunk of time. You don't have to feel pressure.
You don't have to worry about I got to use it in 60 days. No, you have a whole year to figure out the best way that you want to utilize that pass.
Awesome. And so building on this, it triggers another question for me, which forgive me if you did already answer this. Is there a monthly pass that people?
Yeah, so both services feature a monthly pass, which is a pretty steep discount, somewhere around 50% off, for a normal passenger. Whether if you're a commuter on ACE or on the San Joaquins and want to use a monthly pass, that's available. You also have other passes. Perhaps monthly seems a little bit too frequent. On the ACE side, we have a 20 trip pass. So a lot of times that works well for people who are already doing some telecommuting before the pandemic. And then on on the San Joaquins, we have a 10 ride pass, also a 30% discount for anybody who wants to buy 10 trips up front, and that has a 60-day expiration period.
Okay, awesome. I'm looking just to see if there are any other questions. I don't see any right now. So I'll give people a chance just in case they do have questions. And in the meantime, I'll say that this video is going to be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which is Downtown Stockton. If you're already watching us on Facebook, then you know what our handle is there, which is at Downtown Stockton. But we also have Instagram at Downtown Stockton and Twitter at Downtown STKN. So with that, I don't see any more questions at this time. So I would just like to say thank you to David. Thank you so much for answering all of our questions about rail and getting us excited about trying out the trains. I really appreciate all the information you shared with us. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in. So with that, thank you, everyone. And I hope that you all have a great day downtown. Thank you so much.